Chris, we need to do an interview here, right, Chris? We always do an interview with our guests. And Rockin Robbie, this is the moment where we either, after the interview, you continue on with us, or we just kick you off and we all part ways and we have a better show, basically.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
Okay. So no pressure, but here we go. Chris, let's start the interview. Let's do it. Oh, by the way,
let's do it.
Pop Culture Philosophers, link is down below. You cannot miss it. Go down below. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Oh, you also have what we call an Instagram account and Pop Culture Philosophers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Everybody follow right now. Chris, let's start the interview. Let's just do it right now. Let's go for it.
All right, Robbie. Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it. Okay, so I love starting off all my interviews with the same cliche question, but you know, it really helps everyone get to know you. So I gotta ask, what introduced you to the hobby, and was there a defining moment where you came to the realization of, man, I just love comic books?
Growing up watching Superpowers on TV and getting the Superpowers toys, I was always fascinated with these characters. I would watch Galactic Guardians and Super Friends and all that kind of stuff. There was the Spider-Man show that was going on in the 80s, so I was obsessed with that stuff. My stepdad was in the Navy, and he used to always go around and he liked reading comics, and he would ship them to me. And so I would just get stacks of Superman and Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four, and I fell in love with the Fantastic Four. But the first time I walked into a comic shop and I saw the Fantastic Four die-cut cover from 358 or 359, something like that, that was the moment. I was just like, this is it. This is it. So I owe it really to my stepdad and great cartoons and toys in the 80s.
That is awesome. I love the that was your stepdad that had shipped you to come. That is awesome. I love it when somebody always has, there's that figure, whether it's a bigger brother or an uncle or a dad or somebody that's feeding it and really allowing you to get into things that way. And that's one thing, like my older brother and all of his friends were big on X-Men, which really brought me into the hobby even more, because I was always like, oh, what are you guys reading, right?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was really cool. It was a great way for us to bond, especially at first. I was like 4 and 5 when he married my mother. But to me, he's my father. He's my, and so that was a great support that I had in learning to read and caring about these characters. And then eventually we started playing baseball together, and it sparked a wonderful relationship.
That is awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about YouTube. So I want to know what brought you to the decision to say, I want to be on this platform. I want to do YouTube, and this is where I want to get my voice out to so many people.
Okay. So in 2012, we started doing a podcast. I used to be a musician. I was in a hip hop group called The Basement Show, and we were trying to do short films. We eventually wanted to make movies. And then my buddy Kevin had this idea. He's like, well, if we're going to build a website, we need something that's going to bring people back every single week. So maybe something like a podcast. I was like, a podcast? I could do that. I used to do these things in elementary and middle school and high school where I would make a show with my friends on a cassette tape. We'd pass it around the school, right? So I like doing stuff like that. And then, so we did the podcast for a while, and it was just a fun little hobby. I had an incident in April of 2015 where I wound up in the hospital for over a week, and it was pretty much a near-death experience. And I came out of there, and I was like, I got to do something. I felt like I wasn't really, I just felt like I wasn't making my own way. I was like, I'm just tired of doing things for other people. I want to do my own thing. And so I wanted to retool the podcast. We rebranded. It used to be the Smile or Else Show. And then I was like, well, I want to go deeper. I started getting more into different philosophies and different spiritualities and just learning about them, how they relate to superheroes, how that's a new mythology. And I wanted to kind of explore that with a show called Pop Culture Philosophers. And then I had the idea, I was like, but I want to do YouTube as well, because at the time I was really hitting the gym really hard because I was trying to literally change my life. And I watched a lot of YouTubers talking about fitness and nutrition, and it was very helpful. I was like, oh, I wonder if there's stuff like this for comics. And there was. And then I was like, hey, let's just do it. Let's do YouTube. And I've never had a problem being on camera or being a public speaker or anything like that. So I wanted to come and preach the gospel of comics to the YouTube audience.
Love it. Hey, fellow hip hop artists here. So, I love when musicians and comics come together. Funny thing. I got to bring this up to you, Robbie. So today, I was scrolling a Facebook, YouTube group, and somebody posted the Lauryn Hill. I think it was a Miss Marvel, the Lauryn Hill hip hop variant. Oh yeah. And was like, guys, what's up with this book? Is it worth anything? And somebody came in the comments saying, people that listen to hip hop don't collect comics. I gotta hear your thoughts on this comment.
That's totally wrong. That is totally wrong. Just listen to some Wu-Tang. Here's some of the references that get dropped. Like, you'll hear it all throughout. I mean, Jay-Z did a whole album called Kingdom Come when he came out of retirement. Like the book Kingdom Come, when Superman had to come out of retirement. He's got great lines when my favorites like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, all I do is climb the charts. Come on. That is great stuff. Hip hop and comic books, they work together. There's this sense of coolness, of hipness, of doing something raw and on your own, right? And in my experiences, so many of my friends growing up, and even today, we love hip hop and we love comics. And those hip hop covers, they were the best. I still got my Doctor Strange one because The Chronic's just one of the best albums ever.
Yes.
So
you're gonna tell me, by the way, that hip hop artists aren't comic book fans. Tell that to David Banner, right? Tell that to RZA. I mean, come on, get the hell out of here. That is just absolute shit. That's horse shit. I'm not even going there.
Hey man, and one of my favorite album covers of all cover, AT Aliens.
Oh, right.
Where Outkast was doing the comic book as the album cover.
The whole thing was a comic book. The whole thing was a comic book. Yeah, that was great.
Who said, honestly,
who said this?
I know, right? Blasphemy.
By the way, Dan Mills, thank you.
Yes.
This was really sad to hear. Obviously, he was battling a lot, and it's really sad it ended this way. He's 50 years old, very young. Yeah. But left his mark. So rest in peace, DMX. Not to bring the whole interview down. This is about you, Robbie. Continuing on. Here we go.
Thanks, buddy.
For sure. All right. Yeah. I had to. I know, man. I should have got this team, and we should have went after him. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, we were doing a live stream one day, and the moment we found out Ta-Nehisi or Chadwick Boseman had passed away. Like, we were live on a stream. It interrupted everything.
We were too.
B. Schnurr told us. I remember that. I was like, shut up, dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make any sense. And then we had to look that up. It was terrible.
Absolutely.
Listen, we're not going down this road though, Robbie. Again, this is about you. This is if you're worthy enough to become a guest co-host in the canon. So we got to keep going here with this interview. Chris, what do we got next? Come on, let's go.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Me and Robbie might, after the show, talk some hip hop all night long here. So let's get back to comic books though. So, okay, what I really appreciate about what I see weekly on your channel is, you got your weekly review videos where you dive in to not the books that are selling, the most copies or that are breaking, record sales. Not that I love those too. Yeah, I love that too. Well, we talk about it here, Jeff, as well. But you get into these books, you read these books, you talk stories. I think personally that really sets you apart from a lot of other comic book YouTube creators. So talk to me a little bit about, your decision to really have that be really like kind of a consistent, pivotal piece of what you do and what you bring to your channel and your audience.
When we first started the YouTube channel, the podcast was mostly centered around like movies and things like that. And I honestly didn't think too many people would care to hear what I thought about comic books, but I wanted something that we could consistently do weekly. And I was like, well, I read comic books every week. So, I've been reading comic books since I was 5 years old. My job is a comic book retailer. I'm the store manager of a comic shop here. So I was like, well, I could do that. We'll do a weekly comic book review. And so I started doing that. And that's where we started seeing some growth on the channel. And as far as like why I focus on the story, and it's just because there's no other way for me to focus on it. I love story. I love mythology. I grew up very religious in like the Christian church, and I've kind of had some experiences and grown out and in and other things. But it's the idea of taking story and how important story is to humanity. So I want to be a storyteller. Is what I do as a lyricist. When I was in my hip hop group, is I would tell stories through my lyrics. You know, I was always a writer. I always liked to create things. I was trying to create stories. So I'm interested in technique, in craft, in structure. So that's just the only way that I can look at it. And I just love the medium of comic books. There, you can do things in a comic book you can't do in a movie or a TV show. The way you can affect time, the way that we as a reader have a participation level, more so as far as we can read a comic book as fast as we want or as slow and as in depth as we want, right? That's an amazing thing. You can't really, who watches movies at like half the speed so that they can pick up on all the nuance and stuff, right? But comics have always been a part. And when I saw that people were really digging that content, we just kept going with it. And, you know, they always said that when you have all these different tunnels and when one starts working, you just kind of fall into it and you see what happens. And that's what it is. And I've never been a spec guy. Being a comic book retailer, I mean, the spec side of it is the business side of it. So I always keep that personal. So I'm not like a guy that like collects comics to sell them on my own, because it's kind of almost a conflict of interest at times, because I can get some real good deals. So I buy the hell out of toys, though. I'll tell you that. But yeah. So it's just, I just love story and I love this medium.
Yeah. I love your breakdown, man. And what's really interesting listening to that and how you said you just kind of fell into it and it's what you do. You know, I remember the moment like for me, where I'm at in my channel, like I hardly ever do movie reviews anymore, but like the algorithms never, I don't know, they like are my crappiest videos that I do, but yeah. But so I used to, you know, do movie reviews and all kind of other random stuff. And I remember the first time, you know, I am a business major. And I remember the first time I did a video looking at like, you know, a return on investment of comic books that I purchased and whatnot. And big shout out to OMG Chris, who came into that video and said, "Chris, I think you found your niche." And I'm like, well, okay. I mean, that's the business side of it. That's cool, but I don't know. And then I just started doing it more and more. And I'm like, I can actually do this. And now that's kind of like where the channel goes. So I think your point, you know, I think all of us as collectors, we probably enjoy, you know, a lot of different aspects of the hobby. But when we come in here as content creators, I think it's nice to where we can kind of find that niche and that groove and, you know, ride it out. And it's been really interesting because for me, it wasn't, I never planned on going the route that I'm at right now. And it kind of seems the same for you. It's like, you know, you got in it and kind of evolved and kind of went with what worked.
Yeah. And it's really cool that we all are collectors. We all are readers. We all love all these different aspects. There's so many facets of this industry on all different sides, from creators and the publishers and the retailers and the fans and us YouTubers, influencers, they call us, right? And so it's so cool to see us all, because it's all about the shared love of it, right? And yeah, we started, you know, doing all the movie stuff the same. And, you know, we're pop culture philosophers. There's nothing about our name that says it's strictly about comics. And so we do things a little ass backwards sometimes. Like we do movie reviews every week. We do a live movie review. Like we tried doing like just ones where we'd get together and watch them, and they would do okay, but they never did quite as well as we wanted them to. But once we built the community, the PCP Army, and some of them are out there in the chat right now. So Station PCP Army, I see you. You're worth it. Once we were able to actually engage people, and I found out that they would just listen to me rant and ramble for 3 to 4 hours on Sunday night, I was like, well, let's do that with our movie reviews. And so they're not our best performing videos, but we have so much fun doing them. Yeah. And by the way, you should kill your babies, but we don't do that. We just have fun with the Army.
Speaking of, we got Planet Arizona Comics. He's wondering, he says you always dissect new comics incredibly well. Thematically, do you have a background in English language arts? I mean, you definitely there's something about your presence that you make it easy for people you draw people in. and you're able to just kind of just explain it, even if it's a quick kind of review of something. So that's a good question. I don't know if you, do you?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think honestly, it comes from, well, first of all, I've always been an avid reader, and not just comic books, like novels and magazines. Like I love to read. And so I love to read, take it in, jumble it around, and then kind of regurgitate my version of it back out in a way, right? And I learned that a lot because I mentioned that I was involved in the Christian church for a while, and I was actually going to be a preacher. So I was training to be a pastor in a Baptist church, and I was in like the beginning stages of going to seminary and all that kind of stuff. And every single week I had to do this thing on Wednesday night where I would read like a chapter in the Bible, and I would dissect it and try to come up with what it meant thematically and philosophically and how we could apply that to life. And then I would get in front of the church and I would deliver, my devotional or my sermon or whatever. And we did that all the time. So I really feel like it's just kind of the same thing. Just is the comic books are that deep. They're as deep as something like scripture. They really can be.
Yeah.
I love it, man. All right. Well, we're talking about, you love to read. So I got to know, because I know, you review all different kind of comics from all different kind of publishers. Over the last few years or so, do you have a publisher that you kind of lean towards, or maybe that just really has been speaking to you as a reader to where you could say, yes, this publisher, what they're doing is it?
Vault Comics. Vault Comics, 100%. That's run by the Wazzles, Adrian and Damian Wazzle. They have done so many great comic books that really move the medium forward. They can be innovative. They can be very deeply resonating. They're thematically rich. They have a wide variety of horror comics that are really mature and adult, but not in a super in your face way. But they also do great comic books that are for fantasy fans. They have a wide range of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. Humor. They got so many wild ideas. They got some of the best creators there. These Savage Shores by Ram V is a Vault comic book. Friendo by Alex Packnadell and Martin Simmons. That's a Vault comic book. Maxwell's Demons by Dennis Camp, Vittorio Astoni. Deep Roots, Dan Waters. Fearscape. I'm naming all these books to me that I think are just absolutely some of the best out there. Wasted Space by Michael Morisi. If you want an irreverent, really fun, and in-your-face version of Star Wars, read Wasted Space. That book is freaking amazing. So Vault, everything they do is so meticulous, and the way they construct books. And every time I've had a chat with some of these creators who have worked with Adrian and Damian, the way that they talk about how they're so hands-on and they care so much about making something with rereadability that you can keep going back to and not just something to throw out there real quick and make a few bucks. Unlike certain major publishers, they have really good quality paper and covers. They smell the best smell out there is from a Vault comic. So Vault Comics, that's my number one right there.
Tim Daniel, he did a book called Enormous. He's with Vault Comics, correct?
Yeah, he's like their head designer. He was the co-writer of The Plot with Michael Morisi. He's got other stuff coming too.
Absolutely.
He's a great dude. Yeah.
All right. Well, Robbie, so kind of winding down here, but I really got to get your take on this, because this is something that I talk about often on my channel. I often bring up these issues when we're going over the top 10, just looking at why books are hot these days and whatnot. So really looking at the state of the hobby right now. And don't get me wrong, you can't always think that the whole world is going to be peachy happy, handshakes and singing Kumbaya all the time. But I think we're in a very, very divided hobby in industry and community right now. There's people and collectors that are constantly worried and nagging about something. Either they're saying, it's just a bubble, it's going to burst, comic books are going to crash, or nobody reads comic books anymore, or no new collectors are or books are only valuable because it's market manipulation. Everyone is worried about what other people are collecting. Very hobby. New trash, it's ruining the hobby. There's the art's garbage, the storytelling's garbage. All of this going on. And I'm just sitting back being like, come on, guys, there's so much out there for everyone. Something that works for you, right? That's where I'm coming from. So I want to know your take on this. How do you navigate through the current state of the hobby, knowing that everyone is so much kind of in their, I want to say like in their feelings, right? And what is some advice? How do you navigate through it? And what is some advice that you would give these collectors out there that seem to just always have something to point a finger about for a reason to be like, or, the doomsday, doom and gloom?
Yeah, right. Okay. So first of all, an easy, cool thing to navigate is the longer you are in the industry, the more you realize that this is always going on, right? And I think it seems like it's crazier now because of the internet, and everybody's on Reddit, and everybody's on YouTube, and everybody's on Twitter, and creators are now getting involved. We have more of a direct face to creators. So you can actually get on Twitter and like tweet at a comic book creator that they're a piece of shit and that you hate their book. And like, who wants that? And but that's like, how do we navigate the world that we live in? The entire world, the entire country, at least, definitely feels like this, like everybody's worried about what the other people are doing and you're doing wrong and blah, blah, blah. And I fall prey sometimes to the idea that, oh, this person's just a speculator. Right. So like, I don't like the idea of, for instance, I don't like the idea of someone coming in and snatching up every copy of something and therefore my readers can't get it. So we don't do that. On really hot books, we'll place a limit, but we sell them at cover price. If you want to buy a book and flip it, I don't care. But I just want everybody to have an opportunity to get the book, because the people that read it are most likely going to come back and buy more. Right. So I'm more of a reader and less like that. But the advice is just read what you want to, collect what you want to. If you're into buying CGC copies of comics, that's awesome. Do that. You're preserving those comics. You're doing something good for the industry, right? If you like just buying comic books, reading them, never bagging and boarding them, throwing them around, some people be like, that book's worth $80. Why are you treating it like that? Because he doesn't care. She doesn't care.
That's my son. That's my son.
If you saw the way I handled my comics in the 90s, we didn't care about that. And this was in the 90s, people said the same thing. Oh, all these foil covers. Oh, all this. I will tell you this. Marvel's incentive program is to me, a bullying factor towards comic shops. That's just me. I think they need to end their incentive program and not be so damn aggressive with all the different covers and making comic shops order 500 extra copies of book they can't sell so they can get this one, because if they don't get the one customer doesn't care how or where we get our comic books. They just want the comic, So the incentive program's kind of BS. But yeah, there you go. I just fell victim to it, right? But the thing is, just you got to maintain positivity, I think, in life. And one of the things we, for lack of a better term right now, preach at PCP is focus on what you love. Like if you love graded comic books, focus on that. Don't focus on the fact that someone like me has a first appearance of Dr. Doom that's just sitting in a bag, just sitting in the corner. Like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about me, and I won't worry about you. I just want us all to be happy together under the collective umbrella of comic books, pop culture, nerddom. But just focus on what you love. Don't focus on what you hate, because you are what you think about. What you think about, you bring about. What you walk about is what you talk about. So that's what I would say. Just focus on what you love.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. You know what? Congratulations. You have become a guest co-host.
Station.